What surprised me most was just how quickly side hustles have shifted from being a backup plan to a primary career strategy for millions. The sheer scale, 44 million Americans, isn't just a statistic. It's a sign that the traditional work model is being fundamentally redefined.
That's a huge leap. If you look at the numbers, platforms like Upwork and Fiverr have reported double-digit growth in active users year over year. It's not just about extra cash. People are leveraging these platforms to test business ideas and build skills they can't develop in their day jobs.
But isn't there a risk that juggling two roles leads to burnout? If everyone's working nights and weekends, where's the line between opportunity and overload? I wonder if the flexibility is as real as it sounds.
Here's the takeaway. Technology is lowering the barriers, but it's also raising expectations. With AI-powered tools, launching a side project is easier, but the pressure to constantly optimize and monetize your time is intense. The upside is more autonomy. The downside is that work can creep into every corner of life.
And the benefits aren't distributed equally. Data shows that younger professionals and those in creative or tech fields are more likely to profit from side hustles. For others, especially in lower wage sectors, the returns might not justify the extra hours.
So if the promise is financial freedom, but the reality is uneven, who's actually winning here? Is this model sustainable, or are we just shifting the risks from employers to individuals?
That's the core question. Side hustles offer a path to independence and growth, but they also demand new skills in self-management and resilience. As we dig deeper, let's look at what's fueling this trend and who stands to benefit most. Only after 2 iterations we realized that setting vague goals was sabotaging our progress more than the lack of time itself. The difference between a clear, measurable target and a fuzzy intention is night and day when your energy is already stretched thin.
That matches what I've seen in survey data. People with specific weekly milestones are about 40% more likely to stick with their side hustle after 6 months. But the real kicker is that inconsistent work schedules like unpredictable overtime reduce that success rate by almost half.
But isn't there a risk that being too rigid with goals just adds more pressure? If someone's already exhausted from their main job, wouldn't strict milestones make burnout even more likely?
Here's the takeaway. It's not about piling on pressure, but about creating small, achievable checkpoints. That way, even if you're drained, you can still see progress, however incremental, and avoid that all-or-nothing trap.
There's also a pattern in the data. Those who schedule even 30 minutes a few times a week for their side project report higher satisfaction and lower burnout. It's less about the total hours, more about consistency and predictability.
So, would you say that the people who succeed are the ones who adapt their side hustle to fit their real-life constraints, instead of trying to force a perfect routine?
Absolutely. Flexibility is key, but so is honest self-assessment. If you're constantly skipping self-care or feeling resentful, that's a signal to recalibrate, maybe even to pause and redefine what success looks like for you. Only after 2 iterations, we realized that batching social media content for the entire week actually freed up 2 extra hours for client work. Here's the takeaway. Grouping similar tasks isn't just about efficiency, it's about reclaiming creative bandwidth.
That lines up with the data. According to a 2023 survey by Rescue Time, people who batch tasks report a 25% reduction in context switching. But the real kicker is how automation tools like Zapier or Buffer can handle repetitive admin, so you're not burning out on low-impact work.
Can automation really work for everyone, though? If someone thrives on hands-on control, wouldn't too much automation actually make them feel disconnected from their side hustle?
That's a fair point. For detail-oriented folks, automation should target only the most routine tasks, like invoicing or scheduling, while leaving creative or client-facing work manual. The key is customizing the system to fit your personality, not forcing a one-size-fits-all approach.
And personality types matter. For example, people who score high on conscientiousness tend to excel with time blocking, allocating fixed hours for deep work. Meanwhile, more spontaneous types might prefer the MIT method, where you pick just 3 most important tasks per day and let the rest flow.
But what's the biggest mistake you see when people try to overhaul their productivity? Is it overcomplicating things or something else?
Overcomplicating is definitely up there. The other big trap is chasing every new tool without mastering the basics. Here's the action cue. Start with one system, like batching or time blocking. Track your results for a month, and only then layer on tech or frameworks. Only after 2 iterations we realized that our so-called productive mornings were actually draining us by midday. The real shift came when we started scheduling short recovery breaks. Just 10 minutes to step away made a huge difference in our output.
That lines up with research from the American Psychological Association. People who take regular micro breaks report 12% higher sustained focus over a week. It's not just about working harder, but about pacing yourself to avoid that slow slide into burnout.
But what if you're someone who feels guilty stepping away? Isn't there a risk that those breaks turn into procrastination, especially if you're juggling a side hustle after a full-time job?
Here's the takeaway. If you treat your side hustle like a real business, you have to respect your own limits. That means building in recovery time as a non-negotiable, just like you'd schedule a client call or a deadline.
And tracking progress helps too. I've seen people use weekly goal reviews, literally checking off small wins, which increases motivation by up to 20%, according to a 2022 productivity study.
I partly agree, but isn't there a point where tracking itself becomes another chore? If you're already stretched thin, adding more routines could backfire.
That's why mindset matters as much as habits. Progress over perfection, celebrating even the smallest step forward, keeps you moving, even when motivation dips.
And accountability is underrated. Sharing your goals with a friend or a mastermind group can double your chances of follow-through, according to a study from the Dominican University of California.
Only after 2 iterations, we realized that tracking weekly revenue and engagement metrics was the real game changer for our side project's growth.
That's backed up by the numbers. Projects that monitor conversion rates and subscriber growth weekly are 40% more likely to hit their first $1,000 month within 3 months, according to a 2025 IndieMaker survey.
But what if your audience just isn't growing fast enough? Isn't there a risk of investing too much before you know it'll pay off?
Here's the takeaway. Don't quit your main job until your side income covers at least 70% of your essential expenses for 3 consecutive months. That buffer gives you room to experiment and scale without panic.
And the launch plan matters. A 30-day sprint with weekly checklists, like setting up your payment system in week 1 and running a beta offer by week 3, keeps momentum high and lets you spot bottlenecks early.
If someone hits a plateau, would you suggest pivoting the monetization model, say, from digital products to consulting, or doubling down on audience building first?
It depends on your traction signals. If engagement is high but sales are flat, test a new offer. If both are low, focus on audience building. The real success metric isn't just revenue, it's sustainable growth and flexibility. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into turning passion into profit. Keep tracking, keep iterating, and financial freedom might be closer than you think.